What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a lot to talk about. I am fired up, and I think it's mostly because Alexis and I are here in the room together. And every time we're together, fireworks happens. It's
I
great.
agree. I agree. It's always good energy. We always play off of each other really well. I do think what I love about how we're going to spend the next hour is this is really almost like you're watching a live podcast between Pat and I.
That's right. Let's get into it. Let's get into it, everybody. It's live. We can do whatever we want here. No, I appreciate it.
We've got the
It's been so
helium
long.
voice. We've
Okay,
got the
yeah, okay.
helium voice. I
I
love
can't
it.
hear myself. One time I did a podcast and I put that in for fun, and I didn't know that for 10 minutes it was on the whole time.
No.
Yeah, it's the
One of-
Roadcaster.
yes, one of those things that you do and you're like, "Oh, this will be great." And then you didn't realize you didn't turn it off, basically.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they just let it be because it was hilarious, but they were like, oh, can we re-record this? I was like, okay, fine.
I love it. Well, we're here to have fun. We're here to have a sense of humor. Okay, let's kick it off with you have been a top podcaster. You are a top podcaster, multiple, author of multiple books. And you got to this point in your career as a creator where you had a team and you were really focused on building courses
Mhm.
and focused on the education side of your business. And then you shifted more towards a community model. So for people that are joining us right now, they might be content creators, they might have an email list or a podcast, and maybe they have a course. Like walk us through that moment where you realized all of these things are leading to a community and
Yep.
why you started it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take you back even to when I first started, 2008. I started my first business helping architects pass an exam. And that really taught me just the power of being able to help people on the internet. And you can be in your own little niche and do really well. And that changed my life, getting laid off and starting my own business. And then I created Smart Passive Income, where most people know me from in the entrepreneurial space, to just teach this stuff and share everything that was working and wasn't, and that wasn't. And I had never sold a product of my own in that space, in the entrepreneurial space. I had written books, yes, but it was mostly affiliate marketing. I was promoting other people's products and sharing recommendations and earning money through affiliate marketing, from books on Amazon to other people's courses. And I was like, I'm doing well. I don't need to create my own courses. But you know what? People kept asking over and over and over again, Pat, but I want to learn from you. Can you teach me podcasting? I don't want to learn from them. I want to learn from you. And so finally, I got enough courage to finally launch my own courses in 2017. And that did very well, generated millions of dollars from those, which was incredible. And in 2019, I hosted a live event in San Diego. And the most interesting thing about that live event was it was the first time I actually brought my people, my community together, right? We were all there in person. And we had all these amazing things planned. We had these incredible speakers on stage, all these activities, all these fun things in the programming. And when I ran a survey after the event, this is again 2019, the number one thing people loved the most about that live event was not the speakers and the fun things that we planned and spent a lot of money on. It was the conversations with other people in the hallways. We could have literally just had an empty warehouse and brought all those people in, and they would have gotten value, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing community in person is so amazing. I'm going to do it again next year in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. The pandemic happened. We weren't able to run live events, but I was craving, and so was everybody else, connection to each other. And this is where I got introduced to Circle with Andy and Sid, and I was like, oh my gosh, this seems like the perfect platform. Let's lean into it. Let's build community online and have a space where those hallway conversations that were had in person can now happen online. And we launched in mid 2020. We launched SPI Pro. This was a community for the more advanced people who were in our audience who already had established businesses. And we had about 500 people come into a more founders group. And it was just such an eye-opening experience, because not only were people just having random conversations in the virtual hallway that we now had, facilitating these interactions, but we had signature events that were happening. We had people sharing their breakthroughs, and not just sharing it once and leaving, but continuously keeping us updated on their progress. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we have these courses, yes, and they're great, they're helping people, but what if we bring more people together and focus on that? What if we change our business model to focus on the community and not the courses? And just, of course, where the world is today, we know that information is available everywhere. In fact, we're overloaded with information, which is why I wrote this book, which we'll talk about later. And if information were the answer, we'd all be where we want to be, but we're not. It's the people you surround yourself with, how you get encouragement, how you get accountability. And for us as a community of creators, our role as SPI and my role is to help facilitate those moments where people can then find those results, find each other, and we're not looking back. Community is our business model now. And I was a little bit ahead of time thinking about this too, because in 2019, I published a book called Superfans, which is about bringing people together in your audience. And then lo and behold, 2020 happened, our communities, and sky's the limit there with that. And I hope you all are getting involved at least with starting your communities, if not leaning into them, because it's the most beautiful thing. We've never had this kind of feedback from anything we've ever done before. It's people.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear too. I mean, I've been on your journey now since 2016. Whenever I used to work at ConvertKit. And so watching, your email list grow, your audience grow, and then now on the community side, there's also a shift of like revenue sustainability, because I know that with affiliate marketing, you are dependent on the quality of those person's products.
Mm-hmm.
You're also dependent on the ebbs and flows of an affiliate launch. And then with courses, even with evergreen sales, there's still a lot of sometimes volatility in the results you're getting from course launches.
For sure.
So I'm curious how this has also added a level of foundational sustainability to your business from a revenue perspective.
Oh, yeah. Look, we have recurring revenue for the first time ever, thanks to community.
Which is like every entrepreneur's dream.
Oh, it's the holy grail. It's absolutely the holy grail. And like, many holy grails are not easy to achieve. Building a community is not as push button easy as saying, hey, go check out this product and then that's it. But it's so worth the effort. It's so worth the effort. And I'm here today to help you through a lot of those nuances of it. And, I like to consider myself in the world of business, we're all in this jungle together, and I got this just giant machete, and I'm the one kind of whacking all the bushes in front of us. And yeah, I'm going to get hit and scratched up as well. But my goal is to make sure that you behind me are going to be in the clear. And I'll let you know when I see like a tiger ahead and we can all duck and cover. So that's kind of my role here. But in addition to the recurring revenue, which is amazing because it's predictable and you can actually, as long as you retain people, which we'll talk about as well, reducing churn. As long as you retain people, when you bring new people in, they're just stacking on top of that. So you can increase your revenue again and again. And again, as long as you continually provide value, you can continue to generate more. But in addition to the revenue, we have seen with how we structure some of our programming that people are 2.5 to 3 times more likely to succeed now going through our courses, which are now put into Circle, because of the community element behind it. We call it community-powered courses, or internally and even externally, we call them accelerators, where, yes, we have these courses that you could take anytime, but we run accelerator programs, classes, if you will, for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, depending on which course. And you get to go through this course step by step together with some guidance from my team or myself, but you're going through it with others, and you're able to support one another. You're able to fill in each other's gaps. You're able to inspire each other as you go, versus before, which was like, okay, here's the course. Good luck. You're on your own now. Like, I hope you do well. Versus here's a starting date. Here are the lessons you should consume this week and the one next week. And like, don't get too far ahead. We're going to help you along the way. Boom. And to literally see people not just finish the courses, but get the results does what? It gives us more proof that what we have works, which then makes it easier to sell the community, and this amazing flywheel starts to happen. So that's really the big goal here. And again, it didn't happen overnight. It happened in a more iterative process. We didn't do it perfectly, and we're here to share some of those insights with you.
Yeah, I know there's been lots of different variations of SPI in the last 5 years. There's also, I know that community right now can be a bit of a buzzword, and it can be kind of difficult to visualize what that actually looks like. So can you break down what the offer of the SPI community is, what it includes? I also know that there's 2 different tiers now, whenever there used to be 2 separate communities.
Yeah.
So can you kind of talk through, and even if you're able to share your screen, kind of putting you on the spot there, but I'm curious, like, can you show people or at least talk through what is included aside from the courses?
Yeah. I heard a great, and I'll share my screen in just a minute here and kind of show you, but I heard a great analogy the other day or metaphor for what makes a great community. And I want you to think about the communities that you live in and sort of the people that are around and like a community event, right? Like if you imagine a 4th of July community event where you have the tents pitched up and you have tables and there's people at the, the potluck style, we're kind of each bringing our own thing. And you kind of just sit there and you meet people and you cross pollinate and it's like, oh, Jim, how are you? I haven't seen you in a couple months. How's that car going? I know it broke down the other day. That kind of stuff. Those kind of conversations happen. That's important. You need the sort of like community hall area, right? But what else happens at a 4th of July parade? Well, the balloon guy's over there. So, hey, anybody who has kids, that's where you want to send your kids, because at 1 p.m. on this date, on this time, the balloon guy's going to do his thing, and he's amazing. I had him at my other party. And so like you have an activity happening there. So like a signature event or these events that are kind of recurring. Oh, by the way, we have a special guest. The mayor is here with us today. Amazing. Cool. Let me tell you about this. And it's, the mayor's going to come in at this time on this date. And like, let's all prepare for that and make sure you sign up for that so you can RSVP and get in here. And by the way, you'll also get a chance to speak with them as well and ask some questions. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, the mayor is here. So what is your version of like the mayor coming in or somebody important coming into your community, right? It's the community hall or the center, but here are these things happening. Oh, hey, there's going to be a face painting tutorial over here for anybody who wants to learn how to do that. You can go over here on this date and we have somebody to teach you there. And hey, I'm going to be here just to chat. Here's the town hall where we're going to talk about what we're concerned about and what's kind of on your mind, and give people an opportunity to speak up instead of us just telling you what to do. And by the way, here's our library over here, where we have all these things that we've done before so that you don't have to worry about them anymore. They're all here. And that's our courses, right? So that's like a cool analogy for how you can kind of develop a community, because it's more than just, hey, member, come just get the courses that are all now in just one spot, right? There are memberships that have that, and that's cool. But community is about communication. It's about combining forces. It's whatever other COMM words you want to include in there, right? Commemorate and celebrate together. There's so many analogies here, but let me take you into the SPI community. I'm not going to show you all the bits and pieces of it. There may be some more sensitive information and those kinds of things, and I want to,
of course,
make sure I'm not doing.
But I love that analogy because it's focused less on here's a bunch of content, which again, we've already discussed. People can access content anytime. Mm-hmm. It's really building a community experience rooted on member to member connection, as well as how that member is connecting with you and your team.
Correct. Right. And then here's the bulletin board, where you can go see what other people are doing and kind of the things they have going on in this way. This is what makes a great community. It's all these opportunities for happen that you can build over time. You don't need all of this up front. So just going in here, you can even see some people already sharing some wins. Kay has been making steady progress on her YouTube channel, and people are coming in to support, and she's just kind of sharing what she's doing. She did a video that was a 1 out of 10 the other day, which is great. And we often love to share and have created a ritual of sharing our wins inside of the community to help support one another as well. And of course, there's also places to ask for feedback and to get help. We also have our courses in here, yes. And we also have what we call our accelerators, which I'm trying to see if we have any going on right now. You're going to see a lot of things here on the left-hand side, and it's only because I'm an administrator. I don't want you to get freaked out about how many things are here from all the courses. It depends on what level you'll come in at if you do join the community. But our accelerators are really our keystone sort of product, if you will. So, for example, email marketing magic. Let's see if this is the right one.
There was a question. Can you go a little bit deeper on what an accelerator is?
Yeah, happy to. I don't want to, again, overwhelm you with all the stuff that's in there, because this is sort of being built over time, and my view of it is different than a community member's. But you can see there's upcoming events like office hours with me that happen every week and all those kinds of things. So here's an accelerator. We have inside that you can take at any time 12 different courses. These were courses that were once sold on their own for hundreds of dollars, by the way. And so when they're in here inside of the community, you can see how much truth there is to saying there's so much value in here. We sold each of these things individually for hundreds of dollars, and you get access to all of them now for just a quarterly price or an annual price. We once had monthly, by the way, but switched to quarterly because we found that people got value after about a couple months, and we wanted people to make sure they receive that value before deciding whether to continue with us or not. And so that's been really key for us. But again, that's unique to our situation. Going back to an accelerator, instead of just going, hey, here's a course, go take it on your own, we say, all right, the Power Up Podcasting Accelerator is going to start on this date. And if you want to be a part of this, it's going to be a 6-week experience where every single week you're going to get the modules to watch and the homework to finish. And by the end, you'll have your podcast up and running. And it's important to offer that promise. Like, what's the point of this? By the end of X number of weeks, what am I going to get? For Power of Podcasting, it's going to be 6 weeks. And by the end, you get your podcast. It's going to be up and running, and you'll have listeners on day one, because that's what we teach in the course. And again, instead of just, okay, now you're on your own, let's check back in 6 to 8 weeks. It's week 1. Watch module 1. And at the end of week 1, all you have to do is make sure you have the name of your show and your description. And that's what we're going to talk about. And any questions and office hours that happen that week are about that. And again, this compartmentalizes the doing. This allows a person to iterate their way to success together with others. And again, we've found that people are 2.5 to 3 times more likely to finish because they're going through it together with people. What's nice about it from our end, it's like, okay, we can plan ahead of time and say, okay, this 6 weeks or this 8 weeks, we're going to be running these accelerators, so we can make sure there's some always going, or we can take a break if we want to. But we always know there's an end, so we can take a break from it if we need to. And it becomes such a high value proposition for our community members to want to come and stick around, not just being a part of them, but knowing that there are more coming in the future. So if you imagine that you're looking at the calendar, and we have an event calendar, and you see that there is an accelerator coming up for email marketing, for example, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need email marketing. And it's going to start in 3 months, and it's going to have a very clear promise. You go, oh, of course I'm going to stick around. I'm going to learn all these things in the meantime, but I'm definitely going to be a part of that. And so, of course, you're not going to churn because of that, right? So the better that you can plan ahead and understand what's coming, and the more that your community members can see that, the more likely they are to stick around for that, right? And it, again, shows that there's continuous value in there. The struggle we had, and I want to share this because this isn't all roses and unicorns as we went along, is we had too many things happening in the beginning. We're like, oh my gosh, community, this is fun. Let's do this event. Let's have these people come in. We started to overlap way too many things. And we found that people started to get overwhelmed from that. We have, and this is, again, another reason why I wrote this book, we have FOMO when it comes to content. We treat information like food, like how we used to treat food back in the caveman days, right? It's like if you find some food, you hoard it because you might not come across that food again. So when you build a community and you have all these amazing things to be a part of it, you really have to set the expectation. And this is very difficult, but it's because the way we are wired as human beings. Let people know that you shouldn't be a part of everything here in this community. People will want to, though. They're going to feel like they're not getting their quote-unquote money's worth if they don't go to every event. And as soon as they can't, because they just don't have enough time, they're going to go, well, I don't need this because I don't have the time for all these things. So it's important as a community owner to say, hey, this is a choose your own adventure. We're going to help you. Here are the things that are coming up that we believe will help you. However, if they're not right for you right now, don't worry about it. They'll be here for you later. The replays will be available, or that course is always going to exist, and we're going to run through these accelerators in the future. It's very difficult, and that's something that you have to train your people to understand. We've also been getting a little nuanced with that with like one-time events, right? Like little workshops that we do, which might be like a 2-hour workshop about something. And we try to position it as, this is something we're going to teach you, and we're going to teach it live. But whether you come live or not, this will be here as a resource for you, right? Versus, hey, come to this 2-hour live, we're going to learn this. And yeah, the replay happens to be available too. It's the same thing, but it's in the positioning of it. We don't make people feel bad for not coming. We make people feel like it's a bonus if they show up live. Does this make sense, chat? I'm hoping this makes sense, because that was a huge unlock for us as a community owner, which was the expectation that you don't have to come to everything, but the way we frame what's inside matters a lot for how people perceive the value they're getting, or what they're quote unquote missing out on in the community.
Yeah, I completely agree. It also allows your members to feel more empowered and less like discouraged by they're not in every conversation or they're not attending every single event. This Kids Comics Unite joined and had a question, and it actually aligns with the question I was going to ask you anyways. He said, I agree with Pat that facilitating connections between people is one of the most impactful things an online community can do. What are some of the specific things that SPI does to facilitate connections that have proven most effective? Are there things that you thought would be effective but weren't, and vice versa?
Amazing question. Thank you. And now I'm interested in the comics that you have. There's also some great questions here in the chat that I'm sure we'll be able to get to as well. Connecting people Really important. And there's multiple levels to do this. On the higher level, so we have different tiers now. One community, we had two before. It was an advanced one and a beginner one. And they were great. But we always felt like it was like, if you imagine the community hall or like a recreation center, right? It was almost as if we had one recreation center, but on one side of the gym were the advanced people, and on the other side of the gym were the beginner people. And we had this giant wall where they were never able to meet each other. And we've basically found that despite them being at different levels, there is a lot of value that they could each offer each other. So we decided to break down that wall and just now make one community, the SPI community, just to make it simple. And now we have different tiers of access to the content and each other. So at the high level, the Thrive level, which is application only, and it's for existing business owners. So again, at least we know who those people are. We facilitate mastermind connections. So we have a team that goes, hey, you, and you should get together. And actually, here's a format for you to get together. And here's a group leader who we appoint, who we reward in our community. And this is a lot of touch. This is not passive at all. This is a lot of touch, but these are the higher level paying people. These are the people who need this kind of connection with other business owners, these masterminds. So we facilitate that. We build masterminds, and the masterminds are a huge value add. This is something that we've heard clearly in surveys and in conversations that keep people in the community. Well, I can't leave. My mastermind group is there. Right? Why you wouldn't leave your people that you've already built this relationship with? So it is of value to us and worth the time, money, and energy investment to place people together. And it's not a perfect formula for doing that, but even just simply by saying, "Hey guys, you meet once a week here. One of you has Zoom, and you lead the calls and you facilitate that." I'm not going to go over the structure of a mastermind call, but it's more formal, and that's huge. That's one way to connect people together. A second way to do this, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, is to make sure that you are having conversations about things that the community in large are interested in, right? So we had a really good conversation not too long ago about AI inside of business and stuff. We even hosted a workshop about that, and everybody who came to that connected with each other in the chat, connected with each other in the comments section, because this was a topic that, again, we saw that people wanted to learn about and just discuss. It was a hot topic, of course. There are a lot of sides to it. And so it offered a lot of time for people to discuss and connect on a more almost like social media type of level, right? Inside the feed in a more public area. There is a happy medium, however, and for smaller communities, this is the best thing you can do. And again, going back to the metaphor of an in-person thing, a lot of times when people join your community, they're going to feel like a freshman in college, where they're coming into a new dorm. People maybe already have established their friends and partnerships and whatever, and you're just coming in new and fresh, and you're like a lonely freshman. I remember that day. You're just like so scared, right? People come into communities like that because they're like, who are these people? I know the creator. I admire their work, but now I'm a part of this community. Like, people. And as an introvert, that's kind of how I approach these things too. But if you imagine you come in as a freshman and then an RA comes, right? A resident advisor, resident assistant, whatever the person is, that's like, a second year.
I actually don't know what that is either.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. If you know what an RA means, let me know. But I think it's called an RA. Anyway, resident advisor. Cool. If they go, hey, Alexis, welcome in. I know you're probably scared right now, but I want to introduce you to a couple people. Or, oh my gosh, you're holding a tennis racket. That's amazing. Let me show you to some people who I know are on the tennis team here. Maybe you guys can chat. So easy to do, especially online if you start to get to know who is in your community. Yeah. Because as people come in, even if it's through more automated survey type questions in the DMs, which you could do on Circle, which is amazing, or you just happen to know things about them, tagging people is the most underutilized strategy in any community. You knowing things about people can go, hey, that's a great question, Alexis, at Ashley, at Sandy, at Matt. Hey, you guys have done this before. What's your answer to this question? Simply by you being the conduit between people. It takes a little work, again, a little bit of calories to burn to do this, but it's so worth it because you become that RA that helps a person feel more comfortable. You get to see and fire off those connections between people. And it's just a simple tagging that will often notify a person via email that they were mentioned. And if you call on them to open up to you're giving them permission, it makes them feel good too. You're calling them out. You're seeing them. And that's really what it comes down to, just on a human level. We want to be seen. We want to feel like we belong. And so if you're creating a community with the idea that you can just kind of set it and forget it, you're going to do it wrong. It's going to fail. You either have to have some really good people in there who can be active, and we're very blessed to have some amazing people on Team SPI who are actively looking for these connections and helping make them happen. But really, just care about your people, and you'll do that even more naturally. It's such a fun way to start to get people to engage, which is a very difficult thing to do when you build a community for the first time. So get to know who your people are, try to make those connections on their behalf, and just introduce people to each other. It is of value to literally everybody in that situation.
Yeah, it also kind of becomes the culture of your community. And so when you're just starting out, it makes sense to do those one-on-one connections. But as Lujbo in the chat mentioned, that it's hard if it's over 500 people or 1,000 people.
Right.
I think that when you're starting out, you can make those connections, and then it can become part of the ethos of the community where members are connecting with other members. And, it's something that has a ripple effect to it. I wanted to, we kind of briefly touched on pricing, and I know that a lot of folks in the chat are figuring out their offer, figuring out their pricing model. You mentioned switching from a monthly price point to a quarterly price point. And there's actually a question in the QA box. Thank you for those of you that are using the QA box in Zoom, super helpful, around your price points going from $49 to $99 to $149.
Yep.
Can you kind of share how you and your team landed on those numbers? And we don't have to go too deep into this, but I do think it's helpful to have a pricing conversation because this is an ongoing membership. It's like there's an aspect of wanting to keep rates relatively accessible and low, but
Right.
also making sure that you're, profitable and paying for your team and your time.
Right. To talk about this, we'll have to take you back a little bit to the courses that we offered. And remember, we had sold our individual courses. There are now more than a dozen in our course that people can get, or in our membership that people can get access to, which are valued over, I would say over $4,000 worth of stuff, like literal stuff that was once sold for that price. So we actually have taken a hit compared to what we once sold, right? We could make a lot more money by selling these one-off courses in the short term. We're here for the long game, and we hope you are too. So we knew that by lowering the price for people, by having it in a more community model versus these one-off courses with no community, with no office hours or nothing, we knew that immediately we were going to get more people at least interested and excited because the price was actually something more attractive than, a $499 course, which requires a lot more marketing, a lot more salesy type stuff, which isn't really even in my nature. So that's number one. But ideally, the situation, again, thinking about the long-term goal here, the North Star, is that we can keep people on for longer by continuously adding value over time, such that in the end, hopefully, we'd actually generate more money by actually showing up and serving these people. And if they come in here and after a quarter they are not getting value, then we don't deserve their ongoing income or that revenue, right? So we felt that this community model works a lot better for what we want to do, which is continuous education and inspiration and motivation to help people achieve their goals. And that just fit more in terms of our values and our mission. And so that's an important conversation to have, or something to understand about yourself. Why are you doing this? And long-term, how can you help people? Because there is value there. And considering the value you have to offer, and imagine another way to consider your pricing is to consider how much would it cost a person not to be involved in your community? How much time may they be wasting? Or where else could they get the same education for much more? A common example I often use is if you just want to learn podcasting, yes, you could go to engineering school, which would cost $30,000 a year. Or you could hire a coach to come into your house and actually set things up for you for $10,000 to $12,000. Or you could just join our community for as low as $49 a month and learn the right way to do it, not make the same mistakes that most people do, and actually get listeners within a month. I mean, it just makes the selling not even selling. It's just so obvious at that point for anybody who wants that. Now we have, as you can see here, 3 different price points now, and this is what we've landed on. It doesn't necessarily mean it's quote unquote the best. We're always experimenting, always considering. But we, again, at one point had a monthly opportunity, but moved it to quarterly. So although it says $49 a month, we're very clear that it's billed quarterly, but people still enjoy to understand like, okay, per month, how much does this actually cost? So we're very clear there. We had to be more clear than we thought we had to be because it was confusing to people at first. So build quarterly for 147 at the start level, which just gives you access to the information essentially. Now, the start level is the level that doesn't have as much people, and it's really there to create an anchor for the Accelerate tier, which is the middle tier here for $99 a month, what it comes down to, which gives you office hours with me, cohort-based accelerator access. The accelerators are not a part of the start tier, and it just makes the Accelerate tier seem that much more of an obvious choice when you get those things that community is meant for.
Right.
When you have that anchor of the start there below. It's almost like, why would I go with start? Now, we do have people who go to start because they just want the information and they just can do it on their own, and that's fine. But in general, that's there to set up and put the Accelerate level there right in front of people. And the Thrive tier for vetted entrepreneurs have a lot more advanced information. There's a lot of different conversations and access to different tools and utilities that are just for those people only. And the reason why we separated it out is, number one, those tools would actually detract from the experience for somebody who's more of a starter or a Thrive level, who's just in the beginning parts of their journey, because it's just overwhelming, right? So having the different tiers allows us to actually silo certain things away from people who shouldn't have those things versus just here's all the things, right? We are considerate and cognizant of a person's experience of just being overwhelmed. And so this is why we sort of divided it in that way. Why those price points? Because we've clocked it versus other people's communities, other people's offers. That's a great way to consider what you have versus what they have. And again, we launched at a founder's price when we began, and then over time have just considered the more added value over time and have landed on a price point that, at least in this niche, in the entrepreneurial education niche, that people are fairly comfortable with, and our students are getting value. I mean, we want our students to get 10x, if not 100x value from their investment, and that always should be the goal.
Yeah, of course. For the Thrive, can you also drop the link to that in the chat? Mostly
sure.
because I think it's important to look at how community and memberships like SPI are messaged, and you can see the breakdown of the offer and what's included in each price point. I always think this is interesting. Oh, dang it. As a panelist.
Yeah, I can't share with it. It's smartpassiveincome.com/community, although I think Alexis just shared
I
it.
just dropped it in there.
Yeah, I'm not selling this to you, by the way, although if you want to, I'm not going to stop you from potentially joining, but I don't want you to think I'm selling this to you right now. This is education.
Yeah, definitely not a pitch. More so just to get examples of how to lay out a really great sales page for your community and your membership. Jason said sold, LOL. But I love how you've broken out the different pricing and tiers, because I think it's important to articulate the value at each tier. I know that people are interested in trying out different tiers. For your Thrive tier, your highest one, it is application based.
Correct.
I also saw on the top banner of the sales page that your applications are open right now. How often do you open up applications? Because there were some questions in the chat of people interested in these like smaller, more intimate, more like invite only or application based.
Yep.
To really focus on serving the right member and to make sure you're attracting the right member. There's kind of this application process. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, we started with an application process for SPI Pro before we merged the two communities, the beginner and the advanced one later. And the reason for that was, like you said, we want the right people in the room. Now, the application process helped us, yes, collect information, but it was also used as a filter. If people didn't want to spend the time to apply, then they're not the right person for the community. That's number one. But also, we wanted to qualify them and make sure that they were at a level where they could have these higher level conversations. And if they weren't, and this was based on a number of things, like it was kind of an algorithm that was manually just kind of made up, if you will, but in regards to how long they've been in business, size of audience, size of email list, those kinds of things, just to give us at least some understanding. So if a person came in and they were like, I have no email list, I have no business, it's like, okay, cool. You don't have to answer the rest of the questions. You're not qualified for this. But we didn't just leave them hanging. We wanted it to feel like it was something that a person could earn their way into after a certain period of time. So if they were denied, we were very kind about it and said, hey, you're not quite ready yet for this. However, we would love for you to get to this level, and here are some resources that you can use to help you over time, some free resources, some podcast episodes, and other things that can help a person and get them motivated to eventually reapply in the future. And we did this quarterly for a while, and it was always nice because it was almost like a class of people that came in. And we even used Circle in some tags and created like little icons and badges for people for the specific kind of class that they came in, right? Like Q3 2021, Q1 2024, like those kinds of. It was really fun. People had their own sort of classmates, if you will, who came in together, and it's cool because then we could still see founders in there who have the founder tag, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, you're an OG. And if a person who is new sees that they're getting a message from a founder, they already know a lot about them, that they're here, and that there's like trust, and that they can be used as a resource. Like, hey, where do I find this? They're there for help, and that's really cool. So quarterly was great because we can open and close it. That makes marketing easier when there's an open and then a close, because there's urgency there. You have to get in before this certain time. So, apply now, or there's only this many spots available, et cetera. We then opened it up for good because we're like, on the other hand, it's like, well, if people applied and they're like warm, why would we stop them? And so for a while, we brought them in that way as well. But we found that for us, at least, again, you have to figure out what works for you. For us, at least, we found we for the Thrive level, brought it back to more quarterly openings. I believe it's quarterly now. It could be 2 times a year, but we really want, especially with the Mastermind matching that we have in there, it's so much easier to go, okay, here's a group of 50 people coming in. Let's figure out who here should connect with each other, versus like, hey, group of people, we got a newbie in. We got a newbie. Welcome. Hi, my name is Pat. I like long walks on the beach. Are there any open groups here? Right. Yeah. So like at that level, we considered, okay, this is where people need to connect with each other. And it's much easier to do that in that regard with classes of people who come in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And right now you're doing member matching for your Mastermind manually, but a little birdie told me that there might be member matching coming in Q3, inside Circle, which would be pretty cool. I don't know. Just going to leave that there. So you have made over $700,000 with the community. You're also seeing a 40% year-over-year growth in the community membership. I'm curious, and there's been some questions in the chat about this as well. Your funnel has to be really strong. And I feel like you and the team have analyzed where there's leak in the funnel, where people are dropping off. I know that we could probably have a whole hour-long session just on your funnel, because
funnels are fun.
I know it's intricate, but can you briefly kind of give people an idea of what your funnel looks like to lead to a business like this?
Sure. No problem. I just want to wake everybody up here in the middle. Give me an emoji in the chat just to make sure you're still with me, because I just want to make sure. Resets like this in the middle are good.
And thankfully, I have a voice changer to make it even a bigger pattern interrupt for people.
Great.
Yes. So can you ask the question? Because I'm like I was like trying to come up with a joke. And then I was like,
can you briefly give us an overview of your funnel? Because it's obviously very intricate and tight.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's too complicated either.
A question we should all ask ourselves when building anything is, if this were easy, what would it look like? That's a keystone question that I have in my new book, because we always overcomplicate anything. And when we speak to our students and we dive into their funnels as well, we'll often see that these things are often just Frankenstein contraptions that were built over time, and you don't even realize just how much of a mess it might be, or a spider web of everything you have until you're there. And so it's great to sort of audit yourself every once in a while. I think this is a great question. For us, we found that a few things work really, really well for funnels, right? You could always have the nurture sequence that introduces concepts and tells stories. I would always recommend trying to tell more stories of people in your community. People who are in your community, they are the hero of the story. This is Donald Miller and Story Brand. When you paint them the heroes of the story, however you want to share it, whether it's a 60-second short or a long-form podcast episode where you invite them on as a guest and you talk about their transformation, always going to be the best thing, where you don't even need a funnel. If this were easy, what would it look like? A person would see a story of somebody just like them and want to join the same community. Done, right? Why overcomplicate it? So we do that on our podcast. We talk about people on our email list. Wherever people are, they're often hearing about certain members and how well they've done, or the transformation they've just had, or certain things that have just happened. So that's number one. Like, let's not even like overcomplicate this. Number two, we have used and continue to still use a webinar strategy that works for us. This was adopted from what used to work for our online courses, but now we use community. And it always works like this. We have a webinar, which we pitch ahead of time and we let people know about. They're very specific about a specific topic, right? We have 12 plus courses inside of our membership, inside of our community. We pick one of them. Let's say, for example, it's podcasting. And we'll say, hey, we're going to do a free workshop or webinar. And it's going to be about the easy way to start a podcast today and different tips for you to get listeners even on day one. Cool. We promote that. We promote that publicly. We promote it on social. We promote it even to people who are already on our list. And that's important. I'll tell you why in just a sec. Even people who are in our community love to come and they love to absorb new information, even though they don't need it. I'll promote it on YouTube. And we host those on YouTube for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a YouTuber also, and so we can get a lot of traffic that way. But the second thing about YouTube is the replays actually get more views than the actual live stream.
Yep.
You can host webinars on Zoom. You can do it wherever you want. Many people have different ways to do it. By the way, we have a webinar course, A to Z webinars, inside of our community as well, in case that is of interest to you. We'll run the webinar. It's 35 minutes of high-value education. I have a very specific framework of how I promote things on webinars, and it starts by talking about the promotion in the beginning of the webinar by framing it like this. And this is a little tip I got that I want to pass forward to everybody here who's ever going to do a webinar or sell on stage. And that is, what I'm about to teach you is an open window inside of our course that we have in our community called Power Up Podcasting. I'm going to pull some of my best stuff out to share with you for free. And whether you take advantage of the offer that I'm going to share with you at the end or not, you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Are we all ready to go? Cool. When you share up front that you're going to sell something later, there is zero pushback.
Mm-hmm.
And before I pitch, again, we're getting into a little bit of high-level selling, marketing stuff. I always, at the end of the educational piece, I say, hey, everybody in the chat, what was the number one thing you took away from today? People will just start sharing all this value. What it is proof that they got value. And then I go, hey, just say yes in the chat if I have permission to tell you about that offer I told you about earlier. Yes. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's supporting everybody at that point to hear this pitch. And it works really, really well. So that's sort of my formula for pitching, number one. And then the pitch is, hey, you want to learn about podcasting? Cool. You could do it on your own. You could come into our community and learn it on your own. But guess what? Next week, we have an accelerator. And it's the podcasting accelerator. It starts on this date, ends on this date. So if you join us today, and the kickoff call is next week, by the end of 6 weeks, which is July 4th, or don't pick a holiday, by the way, I just said that, you will have a podcast. If that sounds good to you, come join us. I'll see you on the kickoff call. Boom. Right? Because that accelerator becomes, it's not, here's a discount, which is often what's used. Hey, it's going to be at a lower price. We want to remove the lower price discount, mentality, because that just trains our audience to go, okay, well, I'll just wait till the discount.
Yep.
The urgency to join is the accelerator is going to start, which means it's a unique opportunity to join your cohort or friends or other people who are literally in the same position as you and work together with our guidance to get to that goal. Boom.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was massive. And because you have the amount of courses you do, you're also not adding a lot of fatigue to your audience by teaching the same webinar content again and again. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I do think that oftentimes when you have the same webinar content, you do rely more on ads and paid media to fill the funnel versus you're relying a lot on your existing audience. And actually, we need to get to the book.
No, like really quick.
But yeah, talk to me about like the ad breakdown.
We don't spend money on ads.
Yeah. Okay. This is what I thought. Yeah.
We don't, like, this surprises so many people. We simply rely on high value and connection with who we're speaking to on what it is that they need help with now. That's it. Now, maybe we are shooting ourselves in the foot or aren't accelerating as fast as we could because we don't have ads, but we want to show up first and not interrupt. But we want to Flynn-terrupt. I just made that up. That's bad.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point, it's done your way. And I love that you always do business your way, in a way that's ethical and true to yourself, and you're still growing 40% year over year. So I think that the growth and the stability there is so strong even without ads. So it's amazing. I do want to shift the conversation because I want to be mindful of everyone's time and your time.
Thank you.
We invited you here, obviously, to kind of fireside chat through your community, but also we want to support your book. Pat has been a massive supporter of Circle over the last 5 years. He's been using Circle since 2020, since we started. And he reached out earlier this year and said, "Hey, I'm launching a book called Lean Learning, and I would love to talk to your audience about it." And I have actually right there as a copy of the book on my bookshelf.
Oh, yay.
That you gave me an early edition.
So this is my first book in 5 years. However, it is my first traditionally published book. So this is high stakes. And so I wanted to make sure this was a killer book. And it's an answer to the new norm that we all live in right now, which is information overload. At one point, information was value. And this is actually really, really important for us community owners here, because all we want to do is put more info into our memberships and communities, and that's going to work against you, because we live in a world now where we have access to all the information we could ever need. In fact, we're getting force-fed information. We're at a buffet line of information, putting our plates full, because that's just how we're wired as humans, right? We see information, we want to hoard it, right? We're consuming just-in-case information instead of just-in-time information. And when you find out what you need to know about the next step that you have and then implement it, you're going to learn a lot more by the doing, right? This sounds obvious. However, we are working against a world that's working against us, because AI is leveling everything. There's so much information out there. And if you want to learn how to navigate the chaos of information overload, this isn't about reducing distractions, by the way. This is a framework for how to approach things that you want to get better at faster. Speed running skill acquisition. It's exactly how I was able to invent something. I never invented something before, but I was able to invent a product called a switch pod with my videographer by taking this iterative framework, learn as you go approach. And now this product is automated and sold on Amazon. It's called the switch pod, and it continues to generate revenue for us. It's exactly how I approached a YouTube channel about Pokemon. Some of you know or may have seen my Pokemon channel, Deep Pocket Monster. There's also a shorts channel that was recently created as well. 1.6 million subscribers in less than 4 years, nearly 1 billion views. In and of itself, it is a 5-figure-a-month income just from starting 4 years ago, which my kids got me into it. They outgrew it. I did not. 300 days ago, I started a shorts channel, completely siloed, separate. It has now turned into its own 5-figure income by learning as I was going with this specific framework. So I could go deep into principles, and I've done 50 podcast episodes about this because I'm on my book tour right now. But it's on Amazon. It's also going to be in Barnes & Noble, Target as well. First traditionally published book. We'll see what happens. There's a chance it could hit the list. Who knows?
I think it can.
The physical book is the best way to support for all the list-related things. But again, that's not important. What's important is you get it and however you want. There is an audio version of it as well on Audible. It's available in many places. And I did record that myself too. There's also some, I always do this with all of my audiobooks. I go off script. I don't know if you knew this, Alexis, but I have to tell the engineer who's there recording it with me, hey, by the way, I'm not always going to follow what is in this book. I'm just going to kind of go off cuff every once in a while. And I do that again here because it's so fun, and it adds more value to people who listen to the audiobook and get the physical book as well. But this thing has been 5 years in the making, and it is written for, yes, everybody who wants to learn how to learn faster and more efficiently, not continue to be overwhelmed and confused. And primarily, you'll see it in the dedication. I wrote it for my kids. My son is 15. My daughter's 12. They're entering young adulthood very soon, which is wild. And they're growing up in a world that's so different than the one I grew up in, where information was the thing that got you ahead, right? If you had an Encyclopedia Britannica at home, you were smarter because you could afford it. If you were the top of the class in school, you got better grades, you went to better college, you got a better job. That's not the case anymore. What is value? Two things will be valuable in the future for all of us creators. Number one, how quickly can you learn new things and apply? And number two, and this is tangentially related, how well can you tell stories? I feel like storytelling is going to be one of the most important skills in the world, because this is going to be the stuff that differentiates us from AI and the non-human things.
You know what I love about this book premise that we haven't touched on, and then I want to get into some audience Q&A, is I feel like this lean learning is an an anecdote or an antidote. I apologize, an antidote to self-sabotage.
Oh,
Like
100%.
when I think about some of the big ideas I've had or business ideas or things I've wanted to start, I get so overwhelmed with information and I look at everything I'm going to have to do or all the problems or questions I don't have answers to. And I will sometimes self-sabotage myself out of doing something just because
Oh
I'm
yeah.
overwhelmed.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like this can really help combat that self-sabotage tendency of like almost feeling like you have too much information and then
Right.
you're like, I'm not going to do it. You
Right.
kind
I
of
mean,
talk yourself out of it.
if Caleb, my partner and CEO of SPI Media, if he and I like went through the whole process of building the entire business plan of SwitchPod, of learning everything there was about inventing, manufacturing, shipping, Amazon, Kickstarter, da 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 da, we wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Like literally wouldn't have done it. All we did was ask ourselves the question, okay, first of all, if this were easy, what would it look like? Well, we would, I don't know, cut it out of cardboard and hand it to a YouTuber and just see what they say. So that's literally what we did. And once we got that, we're like, okay, if we want this thing to move, where the legs of the tripod kind of fold together. Like, how do we build that? We asked around, and hey, we could 3D print this thing. Okay, we found a 3D printer and we got it done. And we went to YouTube events and again, all the way to marketing. Right? Hey, if we were to market this and it were easy, what would it look like? Well, it wouldn't be a Kickstarter page with 50 different pledge levels. It was a Kickstarter, and we actually went to an event where people who had sold stuff on Kickstarter before were, so we could be in the same room with them and just avoid mistakes. And we launched it on Kickstarter in 2019, had made $415,000 in 60 days, just simply by taking it one step at a time. Because yes, we made mistakes, but those mistakes don't derail you. They become the guardrails to then work within. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a different way of learning. We have to almost unlearn learning to relearn how to stay ahead of the game and be valuable today, because what's not working is learning everything. And by the time you learn everything, A, it's going to be outdated, and B, everybody's moving faster than you. So that's what this is about.
I love it. A lot of resonation in the chat, Robin. It's exactly how I feel. Information overload. Someone asked if we could drop the link to the Amazon of the book as well,
thank you.
in case
thank
anyone
you.
wants to do that. I'm going to drop that again here, just in case you missed it in the chat. Okay, we have a few minutes left. How do you want to spend them,
Thank you for
Pat?
that, Alexis. Like, seriously, like that's, I mean, I don't want to cry, but this book has been very difficult to get out of my brain and into the world. So anybody who's helping, I'm just so grateful for you. So thank you. And I'll stay even a little over if I have to answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of the things I love about Pat is his shirt says serve first. I mean, everything that he does is so genuine and so authentic and rooted in service. So thank you for writing this book. I know that writing and publishing, especially traditionally, is a labor of love. You're getting lots of love in the chat too. So
My pleasure, Alexis. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. When I laugh with this thing on, it's so funny. Okay, I'm done.
Wait, I need to get one of those for summits. Like Circle Summits would be unreal if I got one of those panels.
We'll talk. I'll show you how it works.
Please, please. Okay, a couple of questions really quickly that let's go through the Q&A because there's been lots of stuff in the chat. Okay. Ooh, I love this question from Shujat. Okay. How did you think about platforms where people discovered you and platforms where you built deeper relationships as you built your community? And like the relationship between basically discover platforms and community platforms.
Yeah. So let's define what deeper relationship means, right? Deeper could be learning beyond the surface level content or what a person initially found me for. Where can they go and learn a little bit more about me more intimately? So this might mean bringing them into an email list where I can then open up a little bit about who I am and get a little bit vulnerable. That's number one. Number two, it might mean staying on that platform, like Instagram, for example, but moving the conversation over to a direct message, right? A lot of, even though I have a large audience and a large list and I have a lot of followers, the one-on-one interactions that happen every once in a while are so important. Yes, they make that person feel seen and heard, and that is amazing. But more than that, or in addition to that, I should say, I'm learning in real time about who is there and I can empathize with them. I can discover more about who my audience is in real time today, because audiences change over time. And so that connection point made in the direct message, which I try every Friday. This is what I do every Friday. I will go into my Instagram and I will find 20 to 30 people who have left a comment recently, right? They've seen my surface level content. I want to go deeper with them. I will send them a video, 30 seconds. This is very Gary Vaynerchuk in nature, by the way. And it's literally just like, hey, Jane, thank you so much for the comment on my post the other day. Just want to say thanks for following me on Instagram. But like, what's your biggest challenge right now? I'd love to learn a little bit more about what I can do or publish later in the future to help you. Right? I don't promise anything, but I show up and just care. I cannot. Somebody asked this earlier. How do you do this when you have a big community? You can't do this to everybody. But when you do it for a few people, a few things happen. Sometimes when you respond to people in your community or even on social, even just responding to a few will surface or at least bring to the top of the comments those interactions where you replied. That then signals to everybody else that, hey, you're actually here and you actually do pay attention to what people say. You are reading the comments and you do reply to some of them. And I think for the most part, people are aware that if you have a lot of followers that you can't possibly reply to everybody, but hey, you're there and that's great. Same thing can happen in Circle as well. But these golden conversations go so well because the more you can understand about who it is you're serving, the deeper your surface level content will become, because you'll be able to empathize with them more. You'll be able to relate to them more. Beyond that, storytelling, again, like I said, if you can share information but wrap it in a story that relates, that is going to connect with people more, right? So
can you tell them about your story bank for a second?
Oh,
you
yeah,
and you and I talked about this on Circle's podcast, The Making of, last summer. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about it like this before. Can you share?
Yeah, sure. I can't take credit for the invention of this. I got it from Ramit Sethi, who taught me that he has, and I have now, a story bank, basically a library that I've created over time, and I continually add to it, that has stories. And these stories are just sometimes small little things that happen in my everyday life that I can then organize in a way and potentially turn them into something bigger if I wanted to. So, for example, one day my son was asking me to bring the iPad in the car when he was really little, right? And we often said no, but this time I wanted to play with him a little bit. And I said, okay, I'll let you play with the iPad in the car if you tell me why I should let you do that. And this was a story about, like, on the surface, it's like, oh, okay, this is a story about Pat, like, letting his son play with the iPad or not in the car. Cool. It seems random. It's often moments that just brush by and you never think about again. But I was able to take that story because eventually what happened was he learned, because initially he was like, oh, Daddy, I like Minecraft. I want to play Minecraft because I'm good at it and I want to play and I get better. And then I go, okay, well, how does that help me? I'm the driver. I want you to convince me why it's important that I let you do this. And you could see his brain going, again, 3 or 4-year-old Keone. If I play the iPad, then I won't talk a lot and I won't be distracting in the car. So we'll be safer when we're driving. I'm like, okay, we're getting there. That's of value. Cool. What else? And eventually he says, well, Daddy, you were an architect, right? So if I learn how to build in Minecraft, I could teach you to be a better architect. And that just blew me away. And this became a lesson that I put in many presentations about knowing who your audience is. When you want to get something out of somebody, don't talk about what you want. Talk about what you can do for them. And this little story makes it relatable. And now that's just one of, I don't know, over 1,000 different stories that I have. Most of them I've never used. But it's just capturing these moments to be able to then fine-tune them later. Because the story didn't initially come out that way. But I thought about it more. I added some decoration to it, and I learned how to time it and bring some comedy into it. Like I inserted a story within that story about how when I used to ask for things, I used to go to my mom first and say, hey, Mom, you're probably going to say no to this, and it's okay if you say no, but I really want this, right? I called it the Pat asking technique, or Pat for short. Totally made that up. I mean, I used to do that, but I brought that into, like, it just starts to turn into something that like is a device that you can now use. And so anything that happens, keep a notepad or something. Don't overcomplicate it, of just stories that happen in your life that you can bring into other things that you do. And now when I create a presentation from scratch, I'm never creating it from scratch. I have these stories that I could pull from and just kind of like rearrange them or change the lesson behind them if I need to.
I love that. It's like a true like educator, and you're doing it from not just your POV, but pulling in all these stories from your experiences. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's
Also,
what's going to make you different than the other person. Nobody is like you. You are 100% unique. And the fact that most of us don't even use our biggest advantage when it comes to our business, our communities, our brand is such a shame. Nobody is like you. And as I've often heard, your vibe will attract your tribe, right? You don't have to share what you have for breakfast every morning, but what makes you you? Amplify that. Do that. I'm silly.
I do dad jokes.
I play with buttons. That's who I am. And now you're going to remember this because it's not just the information shared, it's the package that was wrapped around it.
yeah, I love it. I also just want to call out this comment from Penny in the chat. She said, I want to share that I used Pat's free tutorial to start my podcast 7 years ago, and I'm publishing episode 312 this week.
Wow.
Being confident enough to share my experience and wisdom in this way has been so rewarding and is a huge asset to my business. I've also been a member of Pat's All Access on Circle, and it has been beyond amazing, always mind-blowing value
Thank you,
and
Penny.
generosity.
I'll pay you for that later.
No, but I think like this is the value of building for the long term
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
she took something that was free and then, joined something that was paid. Now she's in your community, and there's just like the long-term relationship that you're building with people
For sure.
over
For sure.
time.
Jason, I save my bank on Notion. Yeah. But it
okay.
could be anywhere, like whatever's convenient for you.
Yeah, Notes app. Okay, last question, and there's been some questions about Circle in the chat as well. So Cass, who I know on my team is watching live, if you can drop the link to our pricing page, there were some questions on how to get started. Please do that. Last question for you, Pat, and thank you for spending a couple of minutes
Of course.
with us. I do want to let you know that we have officially all 100 books are gone, and I think it was in like 5
Hey.
minutes. So
Amazing.
amazing. Last question.
Did I beat Sahil?
You did.
I'm not competitive at all, by the way.
You did. I think his was like in 6 minutes and yours was in 5.
Awesome.
Yeah. Beat him
I'm
by
just
1
kidding.
minute. Let him know. Okay. Last question. What advice would you give someone who wants to start a community-based business like you did? I know it's a big question, but
It is a big question.
someone were
but-
to maybe the first 1 or 2 steps.
Yeah, my first recommendation would be not to just create the community yet. You want to imagine the kinds of interactions, events, and conversations that are happening in this space first, and then reverse engineer from that, right? And think about the minimum viable community first, right? You don't want to launch with all of it. I often say you want to launch your community as if you're launching a restaurant, right? In a restaurant, you don't just, number one, set up the whole restaurant and create your menu on the opening day, right? You create your menu ahead of time. But even before that, you might taste test a few things with a few people. You might be under construction, but you know what? You're going to invite your special members or people in your community to a private dinner in the one completed section of your restaurant for a private thank you dinner and support. And these are your founding members who you care about, and they get a little bit of access that other people wouldn't, right? And then you run your soft launch, right? When a restaurant opens just for 2 days, it's a way to have a limited menu of items. It's a way to train the staff a little bit. Cool. You can do that too, right? And then you have a few people in there. They're like, "Oh my gosh, the cheeseburger's amazing. It tastes like something I've never had before." Cool. People start talking about it. You're already starting to get some support. So by the time your quote unquote restaurant opens up, you already have some proof behind it. And so that's how I would launch it, like you would launch or start a restaurant, which is a big thing, and so is a community. But you could start with one dish in your grandma's basement with your friends. I don't know why it's your grandma's basement and why you're there, but just a small little group in a space, and maybe it's a WhatsApp community to start with, just to get a feel, and then you guys go, okay, cool. Let's get on Circle now, because we can now do these amazing things and organize and have these conversations segmented, and it's not just, you want to take like the group chat and extrapolate that. That's kind of what you want to happen, and I love that analogy, because group chats, we all know what that is, but then we know how unwieldy and unorganized that can be as well. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, I love that example. I know you go deeper in this and like the beta and public launch, and you actually have a lot of YouTube videos on this as well. So
Yeah.
if you
We have
want
a
to go
course in
deeper,
our community.
yeah,
Like that was co-hosted with Circle, actually, if you want to
yeah,
learn
the
more.
community business blueprint. There's
Yes.
another course you can take. Oh, Pat, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending some extra time with us. This was amazing. I learned so much too of different ways that you're going about your business and really excited about the launch of Lean Learning as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, a switch up. Wasn't expecting the deep one. That was amazing. For
Keep
those
them
of
on
you
your
that
toes.
joined late, yes, we will be sending a replay out. We'll be sending a replay out tomorrow. So we'll share the replay with all of you via email, the email that you signed up with. Thank you so much for joining us. This was great. I had a great hour
This
in
was so
10
fun.
minutes. Thank you so much.
Alexis. Like I said in the beginning, I knew that this was going to be amazing because you and I, whenever we're together, we do great things. And thank you to everybody who's been here and interacting and just like hopefully opening up your mind to community and what it can do. Take those first steps. And if possible, combine that with lean learning so you can fast forward your way into that. And thank you to everybody who picked up a free book. If you want to continue to support lean learning, on Amazon would be the best place to go and check it out. There are some bonuses available too for anybody who pre-orders it at leanlearningbook.com. Thank you. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you for those of you joining us live. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.